Here with Dr. Daniel Gutierrez, and good to be with you, man. Thanks for being on the Wisdom Council of Kinship Plot, and just want to give you a chance to introduce yourself a little bit.
So I am Dr. Daniel Gutierrez. It feels really formal to say it that way.
Yeah.
But I'm a mental health counselor and associate professor at the College of William and Mary in the mental health counseling program here.
We met in Charlotte. You're now outside of Charlotte, but something that we discover that we share is this idea of kinship, the importance of kinship. But we're coming at it from different vocations, different angles, and would love to hear in your own work and things that you care about, where does that idea of kinship show up?
Yeah, I think it is in the work I do. I think it's in everything. So the focus of my work, both as a researcher and as a counselor, has kind of been in that intersection between contemplation, contemplative practice, and healing, and in transformation, and in social consciousness, how our consciousness kind of shifts and how we grow. The heart of what I do, what I like to do, is to help people kind of become fully human, or like kind of live out their soul, that kind of soul work kind of work. And we don't do that alone. I mean, I think that the way we grow, the way we transform, the way we find out who we truly are is in community, but not just community with other social community, but just in the whole ecosystem of life, right? So, and the place you're in, the culture you come from, the ancestors that came before you, the God you serve, all of it, I think, is part of who you are. And so I think at the crux of it, my work is helping people see how beautiful they are, activate and learn about that yearning that's inside them. And kind of use that Howard Thurman kind of idea of come alive, like find out how to be fully human and come alive, because I think that's what the world needs. And so it's pretty much at the heart of what I do. I think kinship is critically necessary and at the same time a product of what I hope to do.
And I'm sure that as you seek to nurture that aliveness and kinship in people that you're encountering all kinds of barriers all the time, but would you speak to just a few of some of the perhaps the most common barriers that you run up against?
Sure. I think it's a lot of, I'd probably say that the biggest barrier is kind of the idolatry of circumstances, the idolatry of beliefs, right? So like our shadow, our ego, our obsession that it has to be done this way, it has to be seen this way. And we cling so much to that idea that it must be, should be, ought to be in life, that we're not open to receive any other perspective, any other way of looking at anything. And I think that makes it so that we're never in true relationship. We're in relationship with ourselves. We're kind of trying to get our unfinished work finished in this relationship. And then we miss out on being able to see each other. And I think a lot of what this is, to me, what kinship kind of lends itself to is seeing each other into existence. And I can see the real you and you can see the real me, and we can be in the space together. And then something beautiful emerges from it. And then I think there's a social colonization kind of thing that told us that certain things have to be certain ways and certain people have to look a certain way to be in certain places, and that internalized kind of dialogue, that inner critic, keeps us from being in connection. So to me, that's the biggest barrier.
Yeah, we've been unpacking the idea of kinship using the language of mutual relationships, mutual relationships of every kind. And part of that mutuality is openness to receive the other as a beautiful other, right? Rather than the idea of what that other person or other thing or whatever should be. So, that's really good.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, I think in the contemplative tradition, I think in this kind of work, we come to a place of being able to welcome these things. So even kind of our suffering, our pain, I can't see what life is like as you. I can in that mutual sense of belonging and that kinship, I can get a grasp of something that's infinitely seen by you, right? I can feel your suffering to some extent. I don't know exactly what it's like to be you, but I can sense that. So I think getting to a place where we can welcome all of it as it belongs, like bring all of it to the table.
Yeah.
I think that's part of being fully alive.
Well, maybe just name a practice or two, if you want, of how you go about nurturing this kind of thing.
I think each of us have like practices that are kind of embedded in us culturally. I mean, I think we have part of it in our story. I think so. A piece of it is trying to cultivate sincerity of heart. So what is it in your life that kind of helps you cultivate that sincerity of heart? And so, there are things like centering prayer for me that's very, very important. But then I think there's also like, how do we immerse ourselves in the margins? Like, how do we build relationship with people who are different than us? And how do I open myself up to feel all of it? Like where I'm complicit, where I am like agitated and suffering and all that oppression that I have inside, to acknowledge the oppression outside. Like, how do I stay open with sincerity of heart and authenticity?
Yeah.
And then put myself in spaces where that's going to come up. That's the laboratory of this, is into living your life. And so I think one practice is living your life awake, right? Like, so being able to step into the spaces that you have every day with enough sincerity of heart, enough authenticity to be able to say, what is it about this person at work that's agitating me and bringing something up in me? And how do I give space for that too? Like, that can belong to, and how does that navigate the story? So